Wide receiver prospects the Buffalo Bills could potentially target in the first round. And listen, I understand that a lot of us do not want a wide receiver in the first round. We're all married to a position, defensive tackle, edge rusher, what have you. And that's the large majority of Bills Mafia. But let me tell you what, I have been seeing so many DMs on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, even everybody in my YouTube live chat telling me that I need to look at a specific prospect. So, guys, from now on until the draft, I am going to be going through each and every single prospect for all positions of needs, 3 to 4 at a time. On today's episode, we're obviously unpacking Luther Burden III. We're unpacking Matthew Golden. We are unpacking Emeka Egbuka. And I have really dove in to the scouting reports. I have looked at a little film, and we are going to understand what all these prospects could potentially bring to the table. Green flags, red flags, the whole nine. If this is your first time watching/listening to the Dom Mafia Report, I do welcome each and every single one of you. I highly recommend when you subscribe on YouTube that you turn on bell notifications, because as you know, for the first 15 to 20 minutes, I typically tend to yap. And then after that time period, I transition exclusively over to the live chat, where I allow my audience to take control of the conversation, whether it is on topic, whether it is off topic. So fasten your seatbelts and get ready for yet another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. I asked you to smash that like button. If you are listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, I asked you to leave a nice little rating and review, and let's get into it. Also, smash that like button. I think that we could easily get up to 200 likes before this is all said and done. But without further ado, let's just dive right in. And then this right here seems to be a dream prospect for the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to start off with wide receiver Matthew Golden. What do the Buffalo Bills want more than anything, folks? Speed, 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 speed. And Matthew Golden, he stole the show at the NFL Combine just last month when he ran a 4.29, an absolute burner when you think about it, right? Just looking at his stats overall, 987 yards. And keep in mind, he didn't even get going until halfway through the season. So seeing this number with only 83 targets is absolutely insane. He is a guy that lines up outside, right? And he does have a couple of slot snaps here and there. And spoiler alert, with Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, and Emeka Egbuka, this is probably the only one that I really trust lining up outside and being an X receiver based off of experience. So we can just kind of keep that there. Now, what makes him so dangerous is that, oh my God, there's so much when it comes into it. He's a burner, right? Say, for example, that he catches the defender sleeping or lacking, if you will, as the kids say. He's going to absolutely destroy them in overall separation. Advanced route tempo. You should see the speed that he has when he creates up all of these breaks by itself. Solid separation, man and zone. He's a man and he's a zone beater. He's an explosive playmaker, vision, acceleration, and get this, he's even a kick returner. This is the dude. Now, one thing for each and every single prospect, I do like to point out some red flags, because every single prospect, regardless if you are the unanimous first overall or you are a third rounder, a fifth rounder, dare I say Mr. Irrelevant in the seventh, you are going to have some red flags. Now, what I have studied and read based off of the scouting reports is that some of his biggest issues is something that might cause some sort of PTSD for Bills Mafia, and that is concentration drops. Sometimes he is focused on the run prior to actually securing the overall catch, right? So sometimes concentration drops. He had 4 last year, as you can see, 4 drops, which is not terrible, but it's fine with that. He has a bit of a medical history as well, something to throw out there. And if, for example, you are looking for a wide receiver that is a blocker at all, and you want him to bring blocking into the equation, and keep in mind, this Buffalo Bills team has certainly transitioned over to a run-first sort of offense, especially since Joe Brady has taken the horns of this overall play. He's not your guy. He's not your guy when it comes into blocking. His press release against press coverage could use some refinement as well, but hopefully that's something that coaches, whoever ends up drafting him, can get the best out of him. Now, what I like to do is I like to look at some of the advanced metrics so we can get a pretty good understanding of what we can see from Matthew Golden. And as you can see, right, he really started picking up toward the back half of the season. 957 yards at the beginning of the year. A lot of it was Isaiah Bond, where we ultimately had Quinn Ewers was targeting elsewhere, but especially in the playoffs, bro. We ultimately ended up seeing 12 targets for the guy, 10 targets in the following round. His production really picked up toward the back half of the season, hence why he has skyrocketed up draft boards already. But some numbers I really like looking at are his yards per reception. That's about 17 right there. 9 touchdowns is solid, right, when it comes into it. Let's also take a look at let's go to take a look at this. 118 slot snaps, 376 wide snaps. Slot percentage is only at 23.9. So this is indeed an X receiver, and a whopping, my friend, 303 yards after the catch, 5.2 yards yak on average. All right. He is a deep ball kind of guy. I'm loving to see this. 4 drops, as we can see, some concentration drops or something that we need to put into the equation. Maybe not the best when it comes into contested catches. He has allowed 5 picks when targeted. And his deep ball, excuse me, just had to take a swig of my sparkling water right over here. And yeah, that is what we are looking at. Average depth of target, 13.5. So this gives you his deep threat, solid vertical separation. Matthew Golden is the first prospect that we have taken a look at. Now, when it comes into Matthew Golden for me, he would be a dream, right? Like, he would be a perfect prospect if, for example, the Buffalo Bills decided to go wide receiver in the first round. Again, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or dampen anybody's expectations, but I think that a lot of moving pieces would need to fall into place if we walked away with a wide receiver at all, let alone Matthew Golden. Number one, is he going to fall anywhere near to the early 20s? Because say that you've been tuning into the show, I think that we have all come to a general consensus that Buffalo is more than likely going to trade up slightly. If I was a gambling man, I'm thinking 24 with the Minnesota Vikings, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. Perhaps we get ballsy and we go up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19 by itself. But a Matthew Golden falling to this team is pretty rare. I'm going to give it to about a 1 to 2% shot. But if, for example, that's what happens, that's what you can expect from the wide receiver. Now, moving on to the next guy, man. And I saw somebody in the live chat over on YouTube. By the way, folks, if you are listening via Spotify, via Apple Podcasts, I highly recommend you come subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We have a great live chat community here, which largely takes control of the conversation after I'm done with my segment. But he said, man, I'm a big Luther Burden guy. I live in the same town as Mizzou, as the University of Missouri. Let's check this out. Well, Luther Burden, man, right? He, hands down, if, for example, he would have entered the draft in 2023, I think that he would have been the first wide receiver taken off of the board. But as you can see, he ultimately ended up having a bit of a drop-off in overall production. I don't think this has anything to do with Luther Burden like having a junior slump. I think it has everything to do with the target distribution. In 2023, when he put up 1,209 yards per reception, what have you, he had 120 targets, and his targets in 2024 dropped significantly to about 81, right? If you look at his receptions and target ratio, still largely around the same. In fact, I would even say that his receptions per targets were almost better in 2024. He has this thing, really everything is there. He's very versatile. 261 slot snaps, 306 snaps out wide. Pretty much a overall versatile sort of wide receiver who could play either out of the slot and or out wide. Now, what do we need to learn about our good friend here, Mr. Luther Burden, right? Like, what makes him so strong, if you will. Let me go ahead and pull up my notes here. Now, for a long time, he was a top prospect coming out of high school. Bear with me right here, folks. Bear with me. My notes are taking forever. I need a new computer. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds. So he ultimately has a lot of what we need. Scroll down here. Oh, man. There you go. Got it. All right. So what makes Luther Burden so incredible? Strengths that I have targeted. Hands catcher. I think all of us know that I am a big proponent, and somebody else in the chat pointed this out a long time ago. They said, I like a good hands catcher, Dan. I don't like wide receivers that body catch. And that's one of the biggest issues that we have right here. But this is exactly what we're talking about, right? 85.9% catch rate, despite a steady diet, quote unquote, of contested targets. Has elite yards after the catch, weapon combining vision, contact balance, and lateral agility to turn quick hits into chunk plays. He's compact. He's a dude, man. He's about 205 pounds. He has the muscle mass that you're looking for. Serious juice as a punt returner, too, and a real dog mentality as a blocker. Now, obviously, we need to look at some of the weaknesses. Why are people concerned about this? Here's the problem, folks. He has a diva reputation. He appeared to give up in the loss to Alabama, folks. All right. So is this a new diva entering into the NFL? His route tree does need a bit of refinement, has limited exposure to press coverage outside on the line, and its focus drops on tape, especially when working through traffic over the middle where the concentration wavers. So those are the three things that I listed as weaknesses coming in from this overall target. Now, going over into his receiving grades, not rushing grades. Skip back here for a second. Have receiving grades, 5'11", 208 pounds. Dude is an absolute dog, right? Let's see exactly what the advanced metrics are saying about this young man. Like I said, 676 yards this year. His targets went down significantly. His yards per reception was still at about 11.1, but remember, he was very versatile. He was out in the slot. He was outside quite a bit as well, okay? Slot, 261 snaps. Out wide, he was sitting at about 36, excuse me. From there, his yak is incredible, 373 yards after the catch. Yak per reception, 6.1, so he's up there a bit more when it comes into Matthew Golden. And then last but not least, a lot of first downs, only 2 interceptions, solid from his body, solid and contested catch rate. And then that is the dude in what we are talking about. Now, again, like I said, I was looking at this incorrectly. He is a slot guy. 261 in 2024, only 36 out wide. 316 in 2023, 55 out wide in 2023. He started off as a wide receiver, somebody that can play out on the perimeter. But then this dude, he ended up transitioning right over to the slot. Now, since he began right out on the outside, and he only ended up putting out about 398 yards, 8.7 yards per reception, right? I would say that Missouri planted him as a slot and was a hell of a lot more productive when it came into it. Luther Burden, that indeed is our guy. Now, next guy we got to talk about. I've seen a couple of people talk about this dude. Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka, folks. Another true slot, as you can see. 343 snaps out of the slot in 2024, only 70 out wide. 192 in 2023 and 276 out in 2022. So very limited snaps out wide. So if anybody wants an X receiver, this guy might not be it for you, not unless he gets some crazy coaching and he can make the transition. Unfortunately, when I look at a lot of the things, I don't really think that he has the ability to become an X wide receiver, at least immediately. And folks, I'm not looking for a project wide receiver in 2025. I am looking for a receiver that could give us almost immediate production the second that they end up taking the field for the Buffalo Bills. Hence why I'm probably going to say no to Emeka Egbuka. I would not be upset. He's a small dude. His durability is at question. Had an ankle injury in 2023. Everyone's wondering if he could do that. He has average size frame. I'm very concerned about his potential injury, and he's not a blocker either. So we have a slot guy who has a small frame, solid stats here and there, but what exactly makes him great? He is another hands catcher, savvy route technician, has sharp cuts on top routes, advanced feel against zone coverage, and showing innate ability to find soft spots and present clear throwing windows. So this man is a zone killer, ladies and gentlemen, something I think the Buffalo Bills would certainly like. But again, slot receiver, is he going to be in rotation to Khalil Shakir? Is Shakir going to move on the outside? Probably not. So I think that we could all agree there. But taking a look at a couple of other guys, we can go ahead and hit receiving real fast. This is what we are looking at. His yards per reception are at 12.5, had 1,000 yards in 2024. And then what I really like to look at here, Yak. Yards after the catch, 5.9 yards after the catch, 476 yards after the catch. Drop percentage at about 5.8, 5 drops in 2025. Now, when it comes into all of these prospects, wide receiver, number one, as far as what I think could be a fit into this Buffalo Bills system, there's only one, and that's Matthew Golden. He's a true X receiver. He lines up outside. He has all of the intangibles I think this offense is looking for a wide receiver. Like Luther Burden, while he has experience on the outside, that was 3 years ago when he was a rookie, and he was moved almost predominantly over to the slot in the first place. That's all he ever was. And then same thing with Emeka Egbuka. That is a slot receiver. We have Khalil Shakir, one of the best slot receivers, one of the most slept on wide receivers in the NFL, if you were to ask me. So all three of these guys could potentially fall to the Buffalo Bills. They really, really could. I've seen mock drafts where we've had a Luther Burden, where we have had a Matthew Golden, where we have had an Emeka Egbuka fall to us right at 30. I'm not convinced that we're going to stay at 30. I still think that we're going to trade up slightly for a different position, but I think that's going to have to be the first rendition of all three wide receivers that could potentially be brought in the first round. I'm probably going to do an episode. I will release it tomorrow. This is going to be a pre-recorded version. I am going to be looking at wide receivers in the second and the third round, and then I'll do 4 through 7, and then I'll transition over to corners. I'll transition over to edge rushers. I'll transition over to defensive tackles, safeties, the whole nine. We have a lot to discuss on this channel, so stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't had an opportunity of getting it done already, but here we go. Now, folks, I do need to give a giant shout out to today's sponsor, and that just so happens to be William Mattar. Folks, William Mattar is the #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York, right? Say, for example, that you were ever in a car accident. Please do not hesitate to give this man a call. If you are hurt in a car, you better call William Mattar. I never would wish this on any of you, but if it does happen, then it is very important to get the right representation so you can be made whole again. Shout out William Mattar for sponsoring this YouTube channel. Let's get into it. A better fit for a team like Pittsburgh, Mikey. Yes, most definitely. I think that a Luther Burden and or an Emeka Egbuka would fit perfectly over for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Like a slot dude, that's fine. Like, I don't want to get a guy, right, where we look at him and like we're like, oh yeah, like he had limited snaps out wide once, we like him, right? Or like, oh, like he could easily transition over to X. Like, nah, I'm good. I don't care if people are cherry picking like random examples. Like, oh, well, this wide receiver did it. He was a slot in college. He became an X guy. Like, that is such an anomaly 9 times out of 10. I need somebody that truly knows the position, and can transition almost beautifully. That is what I am looking for. But don't worry, I will give you my grade of approval for specific prospects as they end up coming in. But so far, I think as far as an actual fit, I think Matthew Golden would be the only option. And I'm not even convinced that we're going to walk away with any one of these prospects. So Nakua would be a great addition for the Bills. Keep dreaming, right? Oh my God. Dexy Gaming is coming in. And he is saying, so Emeka Egbuka is a wide receiver 2, possibly wide receiver number 1. I think he needs a wide receiver number 1 to be the best version of himself. So I don't know if he would be a fit for us. He's taken almost like 85% of his career snaps in college out of the slot. He's not big enough to dominate press man coverage out on the outside. And I'm not willing to draft the guy and hope that he could become a quality X receiver in 2 to 3 years. So I think Emeka Egbuka is probably not my dude. So nice to see you live, Dan. Great opening monologue. DF, thank you, man. What's going on? Hope you're feeling better, man. Hope you are feeling better. I'm glad to see you're back in the chat. Let's get this going. We have John Robert coming in from Facebook, and he says, I think Bond is the second round at the highest. Bond is intriguing to me. I've seen him fall to the third. We're going to be unpacking him a little bit, I'd say tomorrow, right? I did do a video exclusively on Bond yesterday, and there's a couple of things we liked from him, a couple of red flags here or there. I highly recommend and that you go check that one out, John. We ended up going in detail of quite a bit. Mikey is saying Restrepo's draft stock plummeted after his pro day. Ty Robinson ran a faster 40-yard dash than him. My boy Mikey. Mikey, let me tell you what, man. Listen, I promise you that Ty Robinson will be in my defensive tackle series where we unpack all the prospects there. All right. Because I know my boy Mikey, man, he's been pounding the table on Ty Robinson. So I'm going to have to show him a little bit of love on potentially bringing in the Nebraska Cornhusker, introducing him into the mix. Susu just came in with a $9 donation. Thank you so much, Susu. I appreciate that. What's up, my man, Dan? I just tuned in. I hope you are having a good day. God bless, brother. Susu, I appreciate the donation, man. I hope you're having a wonderful day in New Zealand, my friend. I'm so glad that you always come in, show a little bit of love during my morning streams. I can imagine it's probably late at night for you currently. But good evening to you. And good morning to everybody else. We're having a great time over here. Why would we want Bond? He is the biggest choke artist of the draft class. Spin 0481. I'll be honest with you, right? I will be honest with you. I feel like Bond is fourth on my lists, like rate of receivers that I really want, like for this team, right? Like number 1 is Kyle Williams. And this is not where they're going to be drafted. Like this is just like what I'm wishing as far as a potential vertical separator, somebody that could be a true X for us. Kyle Williams, number 1 for me. Then Jalen Royals. I feel like there's one other dude I would prefer. I feel like I'd even take Deontay Thornton right over Isaiah Bond too, to be honest with you. I'd probably go Thornton and then Isaiah Bond after the fact. I would still be happy with Bond, but I feel like that there are a couple of receivers that I would prefer based off of where I think the Buffalo Bills are going to draft. Short bus terror squad. Honestly, this wide receiver class is ass, and we shouldn't reach for any one of these guys. Short bus, thank you so much for the contribution to the chat, man. I really appreciate that. I feel like that there are a couple of gems in the third or the fourth/second, right? That I would be fine to walk away with. Like this class is very deep in a couple of position groups, like running back is clear. Same thing with defensive tackle. I feel like edge rusher is really topped off at the second, but I would agree with you. I really don't think that this class is incredible for wide receiver. Michael Bell Jr. No one really mentions Tez. He's ridiculously small, but is elite at both speed/acceleration and separation. Michael Bell Jr. Michael Bell Jr., man. Listen, I had the opportunity of seeing Tez Johnson in Mobile, Alabama during the Senior Bowl, and he was the best receiver out there. He really, really was. Then I think he had a bad combine, and it has caused him to drop significantly in the draft. He's a small frame guy. I think that's one of the only things that scares me away. But don't worry, he will be included in an episode over here on my pre-recorded episode dropping tomorrow. All the Texas wide receivers would love Josh Allen after having Ewers, who I think has a weak arm. There are so many weird stat lines with every single Texas wide receiver for the past 2 years where, like, you see the production from the guy, like, on film. Like, he's doing his job correctly. He's running routes great. He's creating separation. But, like, you see some crazy stats, right? So Isaiah Bond went 2 for 14 on deep ball attempts last year. But I'm pretty sure he only had like 2 or 3 drops. That's very much a Quinn Ewers stat. He is not very good. I feel bad for anybody that is intending on drafting Quinn Ewers. Susu came in with another $9 donation. Thank you, Susu. Always here to support the channel and tuning in. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. You have no idea. John Mitchell, in my opinion, and the Buffalo Bills will need to get defensive players in the draft picks, work on defense and a little bit of offense. In my opinion, defense is also wins championships. That defense wins championships. For sure, man. I think that this draft is going to be defensive heavy. Don't be surprised if we only end up rostering one offensive player from this draft class that we bring in. That's what I'm saying. Zayden Richardson in math class right now watching. Damn, Zayden, I appreciate that, man, but I really hope that you're paying attention to class, brother. I appreciate that. Don't worry, man. You could always watch after school, but I appreciate the support nonetheless, man. Nonetheless, shout out to your teacher. Josiah just came in with a great question. Would you rather have another wide receiver that can catch contested catches like Coleman or a wide receiver that spreads the field? Definitely a wide receiver that spreads the field. That's what I'm looking for. That is something we didn't have last year. It should have been Curtis Samuel, right? Like, he is fast, but him and Josh Allen did not have any chemistry. I think that he was dealing with a turf toe for the vast majority of the season. So I think a vertical separator is probably my number one thing that I am looking for, right? Because, like, Joe Brady leverages a bunch of different, like, he moneyballs the wide receiver room, basically. Like, he's just looking for role players just to give us what they are good at. Like, we have a contested catch guy, which is Keon Coleman. He had a great contested catch rate last year, by the way. Very, very good. Massive upgrade from Gabe Davis. 0 questions asked. We have a route runner. That's Khalil Shakir. It should be Dalton Kincaid. Hopefully he has a way better year 3. We had a speed guy in Curtis Samuel, like I said, but, you know, he just didn't really turn out. But, yeah, so we need that role to be filled. Somebody that vertically stretches the field, and I think that's exactly what Buffalo is looking for. I think we're looking for a guy that runs a 4.4 at absolute bare minimum. Dexy Gaming. Dan, my Bills mock 6. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle. Darian Porter, cornerback. Isaiah Bond, wide receiver. Ashton Galat, defensive end, with Billy Bowman, safety. Kyle Williams, wide receiver. Kobe Bryant, corner. Jamari Caldwell, DT. Willie Lampkin, guard. And a Sean Dolak at linebacker. Man, listen, brother, I can already tell some of your draft crushes, and I can appreciate that. And do you think that Jeremiah Smith is a generational talent? I am not familiar with the guy, but I will certainly look into it. I'd love to see another Kyle Williams on the Buffalo Bills. Bust out your old Kyle Williams jerseys, folks. Truth and Chill just came in. Keep getting your pump on, Dan. Be good, do good. Bless, go Bills. Truth and Chill, thank you so much, man. I am currently on a bulk I appreciate that. I just came back from the gym. Yeah, most definitely. I am actually watching my nephew and niece later this evening. I am going to be taking them to the trampoline park. All right. So I had to clean up the crib a little bit, and I haven't had an opportunity of showering, so I smell like shit. But is what it is. Is what it is. I had to hop on here and talk ball with the boys real fast. But I appreciate you acknowledging the gains, my friend. That really gets me going. Susu, besides the Texas receivers, how about Georgia? Like, for example, an Arian Smith. I really haven't been too high on any of the Georgia receivers this year. I'd probably have to pass on them because I think that they would just be role players. And I don't think that they would be a day one contributor. We have DF. And can you imagine another season like last year without a field stretcher? I would like one, right? It's weird. It's weird with the Buffalo Bills, right? Because last year we were number 1 in points scored, with playoffs included. Second in points scored, second to the Lions during the regular season. And we did all of that without a field stretcher, right? So it's a weird feeling. It's a very, very weird feeling. But just add one more 3rd or 4th round talent. I think that we'll be in good shape. Mikey and the Jeremiah Smith won't be in the league for another 2 years, but we love him in Columbus. DF forever 100 watching. Hit that like button. Guys, absolutely. Easiest way to show some love over here is quite simply just by smashing that like button, hitting that thumbs up sign for me. Very easy way to show a little bit of love, man. Soul Train. Smith from Ohio State will probably be a top 10 pick when he comes out. And you ever listen to Chris Brown and Steve Tasker? I'll be completely honest with you, man. I really don't like watch/listen to the Bills content. It's weird, right? It's weird. I really don't. I just make it. Like, that's really all I do. Like, yes, I'll do some research, but typically it's just like, it's looking through PFF. It's me watching the game and me sort of having my own takes and stuff like that. Like, I really don't sort of listen to football content, right? It's weird. I don't know. So maybe it's because, so it's my job. So maybe when I do listen to podcasts, I'm like, I need to listen to something else outside of football. I don't know. But yeah, man, I really don't listen to anything. So I have friends right within the space. But yeah, for the most part, I really don't consume much Bills content. It's just observations that I make it. Bill 716. Dan, when do you think that we should look at left tackle? Deion Dawkins is going to be entering. He is going to be 31. How much longer? And do you think that he has left in the tank? So luckily, when it comes into offensive linemen, they tend to be pretty effective until about 33, 34. And he really doesn't have much of a huge injury history, right? If anything, we should perhaps look at a left guard because David Edwards is a pending free agent next year. And I'm not entirely sure that he would get re-signed. Dexy is saying, Dan, and you should check out Jack Beck. He reminds me of Puka and Shamir Dyke, Florida Gators wide receiver I like in the 6th. Well, hey, man, listen, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of guys. A generational talent ain't shit if you can prove it on the field. If you guys know what I mean, you never know if they would live up to the hype, for sure. We have Josiah Covington. And do you feel like Josh has a lot of pressure on him going into the season because of the MVP and the big contract he just signed? No, I wouldn't say that, right? He's already had a big contract already, and he just always seems to persevere. It's more coaching staff, to be completely honest with you, that has all the damn pressure. Soul Train. And this is the only Bills content that matters. Dan is the man. Thank you, Soul Train. I appreciate that. But shout out my boys, Buffalo Fanatics. They are cool. I really like Jimmy Horn Jr. I feel he's a big sleeper, fast, great route running, big body, etc. I feel like it could a later round pick if he falls. Would love to see your take on him. Jimmy Horn Junior, great route runner. All right, man. Well, let me tell you what, it is very important that you subscribe and you turn on those bell notifications, because I am going to be going through basically how I'm going to be structuring these entire streams and videos that I release all the way up to the draft, is me going through wide receiver first round targets, defensive tackle first round targets, edge rusher first round targets, safety, everything. And I'm going down the pipe. So everything that I do from now on is going to be hammering the hell out of all the prospects that I could assume are going to be on the Buffalo Bills draft board. And the funny thing about Dan and I, so I do tons of research, and so I come on here and listen to Dan. I do my thing. I don't really watch anyone else other than Dan. Dude, it's funny. It's funny, man. Listen, DF, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And shout out to the mods. Shout out to Mike. Shout out to Dwayne. Shout out to all my dudes in here that keep the peace in the live chat, man. It's some cool stuff, and I really appreciate that. Sorry, guys. So it's my accountant, and so I'm doing my taxes. I pay my taxes, all right? Anyway, we're back. We're back. All right, so we have Deontay Thornton was a man among boys against Alabama last year. It was like, who is this guy? He's awesome. He could definitely keep defenses honest. He's funny because, like, he really didn't have a lot of targets. I think our coaching staff will be this year. Now we will have a new special teams coach. Let me read that again. I think our coaching staff will be W this year. Now we have a new special teams coach. I know. Thank God. Dan, a pick that would throw everyone off is the Bills take Gray Zabel at 30. And he could play anywhere on the offensive line. It definitely would. And I think Twitter would have an absolute meltdown if that was the case. Why do we even pay taxes? Damn. I don't know, man. Any second wave free agents available that you like? I feel like we're done in free agency, to be honest with you. I feel like we're done in free agency. All right, talk to me. So do you really think that there are really any first-round wide receivers? John Roberts. Yeah, there are, but I don't necessarily think that any of them are going to fall to the Buffalo Bills. I'm still pretty convinced that we're going to be focusing exclusively, right, on either a defensive tackle and or a corner. No shirt, drunk Dan celebrating coming back soon, praying this would come true. Susu, thank you so much. Well, funny enough, I am actually doing sober 2025. I have not had a drink since December 15th. All right. And I am going to, so my shirtless drunk streams will not be back at least until December 15th of, I'd say, 2025. Yeah. So I have been sobs for about 4 months. I'm going the entire year, baby. I'm going the entire year. Why? Because I'm trying to get really fucking jacked. That's what it is, man. That's what it is. I'm trying to look like a Greek god, man. So I snipped out alcohol. Josiah, and do you think Cooper would end up on a team? And if so, what team do you think he would most likely go to? I have a feeling, I don't know where the hell he's going to go, man. At first, I thought he was going to go to the Patriots. He still could, but yeah, I don't know. Let me see. And then Axel says, and Dan's just getting tired of getting beat up by Bob. I know, man. I'm training. And do the Bills bring back Gable Stevenson? I mean, he's been all right. So do you think Cooper would end up on a team? And if so, what team? I don't know. I don't think that Gable Stevenson is going to be a Buffalo Bill much longer, but that's it. But all right, guys, listen, I got to continue to clean my house. Like I said, I am babysitting my niece and nephew this evening, and we're going to have a fun day at the trampoline park. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually wanted to go to the trampoline park, but as a 33-year-old grown man, it would look weird. So I was just like, all right, screw it. I will babysit my niece and nephew, and that gets me a ticket right into a trampoline park without people thinking I'm weird. All right. So I'm very excited about that. And then I'm going to take him to go get ice cream and do like that cool, fun uncle shit. But anyway, I love all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be live later on Roundtable Sports 4th and Forever. And I'm going to film a video to release tomorrow as well about some more prospects that I really hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much. Love y'all. We'll see you next time. Peace.